Welcome back to my channel. My name is Stacey Flowers. I feel like I'm super close to here. My name is Stacey Flowers. I'm a student of Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University, and I am on a journey to become 100% debt free. My current debt is $89,999. I'm on baby step number 2 to repay all of my debt. In the previous video, I just budgeted my February 2021 income of $10,000 net, working part-time in my own company. This is the Q&A portion. You can ask as many questions as you would like to ask, and I will stay on the line and answer as many as possible. So without further ado, let us dive into the questions. So somebody had asked, from the previous video, did I paint? Yes, I painted. I painted my whole apartment, and I love it. I've always wanted a black kitchen, and it's very interesting. Originally, the black color that we chose was like black, like super black, and it was very intense, and I didn't think we were going to be able to do it, but we were able to do it. We were able to find the perfect black, and it's just, I love it. And I'm looking forward to like styling it up and, you know, getting everything together. It feels like even though it's the same apartment, like it feels like a completely different space, and I'm here for it. I'm super here for it. Victoria L, your kitchen looks great. Thank you very much. I do enjoy it. I feel very good. As getting, you know, videos and stuff like that of me cooking in here. Let's see. Trying to see if I can grab some of your questions. I guess I can hold this up so that way I can look a little closer to looking at the camera. Nope. Okay, Robin Financial Education said, do you have any opinions about student loan programs with the new president? I do not. I don't have anything as it relates to the new president, but just in general, my philosophy around paying my student loans is that, like, I value my education so much, and I consider it a like privilege, rite of passage, grand opportunity to be able to pay back what I owe. I remember the first time I had gone on this journey and somebody had asked me how I felt about it, and I was just like, when I was 18, my signature was worth $50,000. I feel kind of amazing about it. Like, I've never had a relationship with my student loan debt where it was like, I can't believe this is how much I owe, or this is unfair, or this is a burden. Like, I've always had the mindset of like, what? At 18, my signature was worth $50,000? Like, could you imagine what my signature is worth now? Like, so I've always sort of had that mindset. And then at the top of 2017, when I had that nervous breakdown and I'm like rebuilding my financial dignity and doing all of that stuff, what I am finding is that paying back the debt that I owe is giving me a level of dignity and a level of confidence and a level of security that I don't know if it would come if that was just cleared, right? It makes me think about how sometimes when people file bankruptcy, the statistics, if you file bankruptcy once, that you will file bankruptcy again, is like you're like 70% more likely to file bankruptcy again. And I know that debt forgiveness is very different than bankruptcy, but the psychology is similar in that you borrowed a certain amount of money and then that money was wiped out. And so there's not a connect between your experience of borrowing and having and possessing and the actual cost or value of what you bought or got. And so what I am enjoying about repaying my debt is feeling the full weight of the value of my education, feeling the full weight of my capacity as an entrepreneur and an earner to be able to earn. So, cause like, right, like to pay, like I looked at my, my taxes and stuff like that have come in, and I think I paid like $22,000 in interest last year. Now that's, I don't know why I just got like super crunk, but like that's insane. But I'm so proud of myself that like I earned enough money to pay a small salary, right? Like that, like I just have a different sort of a relationship with it. And so for that reason, for me, that is not a presidential issue that like I come down hard on, because there's so much value in the journey of me figuring out how to pay back this expense that enabled me to get an education and change my life and change my family tree. So hope that answers the question. Let's see. K's SJ said, "Oh my God, look at that paint. It looks so classy and modern." Thank you. I love it. I love, like, you guys have no idea. I love it in here. And there's paint all over, so you'll get a chance to see how everything looks once it's all styled and done and all that jazz. So, yeah, feeling the full weight of my education. Let me see if I can go to the other one and see if there are questions in there. Yeah, no, I can't grab those. Yeah, so we don't have very many questions in the Q&A. I wonder if we just don't need to do a Q&A today. Oh, Buttercup Bunny said, did you get rid of your table? Yes. So I believe I got rid of every single piece of furniture. Yes, I got rid of every single piece of furniture. So the apartment is fully furnished, like with brand new everything. I mean, I still have some of like my silverware and flatware and stuff like that, but for the most part, I think I bought everything brand new. Everything in here will be new. Yep. My old VHS tape said Dave Ramsey Shows Studios has been doing live in-person debt-free screams for a month now. Oh, okay, perfect. So then, yeah, then I will go. Nicole Jones, I asked a question. Can you ask your question again? If you guys asked your question in the previous video, the live is still populating to pop up, so I can't see it. So you have to ask it again here. Lauren Holding said, how is your son doing in college? He's doing okay. Like, from a social perspective, he's doing freaking amazing. But from a like, dude, we did not go to college just for your social life perspective. You got to get it together. So, and I'm thinking about talking about a little bit more about parenting and stuff like that on my podcast, because I think when people see me, they think that there were no challenges and difficulties and issues and stuff like that that came up with my kiddo. And that may be giving them an impression that if they are facing that in their own parenting, that they're not doing a good job. And I don't want to do that. And so I'm going to chat with my son to see how he feels about me like pulling back the curtain a little bit on some of the stuff that we've dealt with in terms of like his grades and his attitude and his behavior and stuff like that. Because I think when people see me, they would never imagine that. Now, don't get me wrong, my child was not nearly as bad as I was, but there were definitely, like, you know, him getting suspended from, well, I don't know if I can say that, but there was stuff that came up. And so I'm going to ask him for permission to see if I can share a little bit more about that experience, so that way it can be encouraging to anyone who's still parenting now, that some stuff is normal, that what you're going through, and then just to talk a little bit more about how me and my son's father got through that so that he could get to college, and what are some of our expectations in college in terms of grades and behavior and, you know, so on and so forth. So, but he's doing well. He's going to be doing better this semester, but he's doing well. He's doing well. The Geek 2050 said, I don't know if it's been asked, but are you going to post more hauls? Yes. The only reason you guys didn't get, you guys are going to get this January content now. It's going to be outdated when you get it, but you're going to get it. My computer, let me see if you guys can see. Can you guys see how my computer is doing that? I don't know if it's translating, but like, imagine trying to edit a video and the lines of the computer screen are doing that. So it's like, that's happening on my computer. And then also when I'm trying to edit the video footage inside of the video editing software, my computer is much older than the size and the quality of the footage that I'm getting, right? So the combination of it all is just resulting in me not being able to edit properly, because I like visually can't see because the lines, but then also the program runs too slow for me to just be able to, you know how you guys are like getting like music and transitions, it's just running slow, which it's in, and I know that may seem like a big problem. It's like, it is a big problem, obviously, because I can't get the videos out, but like, my computers have done me well, right? Like, I've had this computer for 2 years now, and I bought it on Craigslist. My desktop that I bought, I think I had that for 3 years, and I bought it on Craigslist. Like, I've been very fortunate to find technology that has supported me up and until this point, and now it's just a matter of me upgrading and finding technology that's going to support me, which is the reason why I bought a laptop last week. I bought a MacBook Pro last week, but it's terrible. Like, the camera on the MacBook Pro was just terrible, and literally 50% of my work is via the camera. Like, and I was way too distorted. I was like, there's no way. So just the one that, and it could have been a bad one, but when I was doing my research, they just said the cameras are bad on this particular model. So once that's replaced, then I'll be able to get back in and do footage. To that point, my aunt is sending me, I wish there was a way for me to keep this color. This is a really nice color right now. My aunt is sending me a iMac, so I will have a new desktop hopefully by the end of next week, which will enable me to get videos and stuff up. So Lisa, your accomplishments deserve multiple debt-free screams. Thank you. So I'm gonna do the Dave Ramsey debt-free scream. I'm gonna have a party. I'm doing a lot around debt, because now I know, in addition to me being debt-free, I'm gonna have really great income, so I'll be in a position to kind of like throw an amazing party and all that stuff too. So I'm excited to see you guys there. Truth Seeker said, pray all is well. You look so beautiful. Thank you very much. All is well. Things are well. Things are good. Thank you. KB said, oh my gosh, you're glowing, girl. Well, thank you very much. I am like in a very beautiful season. I would say that I feel like I'm in such a harvest of my life, like all across the board, whether it is financially, relationally, home wise. Like, I think I'm going on my 3rd year in this apartment, and so I think like even there's like a glow up in the apartment that's like wrapping around me as well. But I think that that is the fruit of like making a decision about something and then sticking to that decision. And I'm so grateful for so many of you guys who have seen my journey like along the way. Like, a lot of the glow is like I'm so much healthier now. Like, literally I'm healthier, and like in me being healthier, like you can't help but have that like inside out like bing kind of a thing. And I'm grateful for everybody who has watched this journey and who has witnessed it, because I mean, I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, like, you know. So yeah, but thank you. Vanessa 4 said, I'm a dog lover. I want to see your puppy. He is coming. He's making his debut. I want to share him with you. I had made mention in the other video that I had some anxieties and some fears around it, because I've never had a puppy before, and I didn't know if I was going to damage or harm him, and maybe he might pass away. I did have a dog pass away, and that was very intense for me, and so I didn't want to introduce him and then maybe I did something wrong and he was gone, and then that be even harder to like that. And then I just wanted to have him for a little bit for myself, because I mean, who gets a puppy on Christmas Eve? I got a whole entire puppy on Christmas Eve. That's amazing, but it also kind of feels like something out of a movie. So I was also, there's still residual, I'm trying to step into this season of like ease and success and peace and happy. I'm trying, like, that's not my natural state of life of where I've come from. So I was very much waiting for my apartment complex to be like, no, or like, you know, for something to be wrong. You know, I was just waiting for the other shoe to drop, and maybe not waiting for the other shoe to drop, but trying to protect myself from that, and thus just keeping him a little bit private and intimate for myself for a little bit. But I'm feeling ready to share him with you guys, because he's amazing. He's the most amazing dog in all the land. I'm very lucky. Let's see. Amanda, you are seriously one of the, you are seriously one of the most beautiful people I've ever seen inside and out. I mean that as less creepy as possible. Thank you. I receive it as less creepy. I receive it as not creepy at all. I mean, thank you. Miriam said, I would love parenting videos. Yeah, so if it was parenting videos, they would be like talking head videos. Maybe I can slide some old footage of my son that I have, but it would be more so, you know, me talking about like discipline, and me talking about, you know, the stress. Like my son has broken so many bones in his body. Like, that's intense. Maybe me talking a little bit about me being the non-custodial parent, but how does that look for me showing up with my son's father, and us co-parenting, us getting to the place of co-parenting. It'll be it wouldn't necessarily be like with my son in it, but it would just be me talking about more of my philosophy, more of my experience, etc. But I would want to get permission from my son Like, there's some stories I feel comfortable telling about him because they're as much my story as they are his story. But with respect to parenting, a lot of those stories belong to the story of his life, and I would never want to um, tell the story of his life without his permission. If I'm hoping that that makes sense. So let's see. Amanda, what kind of puppy did you get? That will be coming soon. You guys will get all of the info about that. Nicole Jones, once you're debt free, are you going to pay yourself the same? If so, will you invest money? Would you have allocated to debt? So once I'm debt free, my initial thing that I'm going to work on mastering next is savings. So, and this is something that, you know, I'm hoping is being translated as I'm doing the videos, is that like, what you guys have seen me master over these 3 years is you have seen me master. So, and I had mentioned this very early on, I've always had a very significant income. So I've never had a challenge earning money. So there was, I don't necessarily know how to teach that, because maybe, let me not say that. Point is, you guys have seen my income grow, right? So you guys have witnessed the skill of growing my income. Then you guys have witnessed the skill of managing money. A skill that I do not have still yet is savings. You would think with how much money I earn and how much money I manage that I'm a good saver. I'm not a good saver. For example, the last thing that I saved for was, I was gonna move, and then I ended up not moving, and then I used that money to decorate my apartment and get an interior designer and all of those different things. That is the last time that I saved, and that was saving, and I'm not saying that, you know, that wasn't a feat in and of itself, but when I was saving for that, I wasn't being like stretched into the process of saving, because I was saving because I knew I was going to be moving into another apartment that was going to basically be double the rent of this, and I didn't want to be in a bad place. I don't actually know how to save just for the sake of like, this is a responsible thing to do as an adult. Like, so how you guys see me pay my tithes at 10%, I could do that, does nothing, no issues. Like, I've worked through all of the stuff that comes up around giving 10% of my income away. But if there was another category and it was like, oh, put 10% of your money into a savings account, I don't have that skill. I would fuss and fight. I would find something to spend that 10% on. So the next thing after I pay off my debt, that I'm hopefully, and I don't know if it'll be entertaining, or not entertaining, but inspirational, educational, entertaining enough to show you guys me mastering and learning how to become a saver. Because I'm not a natural saver. You would think that it's easy, but no, like, I only know how to save if I know that there is an immediate thing that I'm going to spend. But to just to put $1,000 to the side that is not earmarked for anything, it's just there. No, that's not a thing in my world. So I'm looking forward to learning that skill. And so my first savings goal immediately after I'm 100% debt free is to save 3 to 6 months of my expenses. Then after I do my 3 to 6 months of expenses, likely the next thing that I will save for is to buy property, and I will be buying property in cash. So there'll be some sort of property thing that I'm saving for. And then once those two savings things are done, then I will actually move into the investing space. And the property will be something, it'll be part savings, part investing, moving into my investing portfolio. And then you guys will see me have more of a conversation around investing. But I do not have any plans to invest until I master savings. And that is incredibly, I'm not even gonna say that. It's not risky, but that is not common to do it that way. It is common to pay down debt, invest, and save all at the same time. I am not built that way. I am built to do one thing really, really well at a time. And in me doing one thing really, really well at a time, it gives me more to do when I'm going into the next step. So like, for example, because I've mastered earning a higher income, it made it a lot easier for me to master paying off debt, because you need good income to pay off debt, especially if you have the amount that I have. But if I had to learn those two things at the same time, it would be way more challenging for me to just be amazing, or not be amazing, but it would be way more challenging for me to be amazing at moving along this journey. Now that I've mastered paying off debt, and then ultimately not having debt, if you think about it, all that disposable income now belongs to me, which means that savings is going to happen so much more faster because I don't have to put my money in so many different places. Then once savings is mastered, because I'm nice and secured from a liquid standpoint, I don't have any debt, my income is solid. By the time I'm investing, that's going to be like playing. It's going to like, there's not going to be stress. Like, let's say I invest in something and I'm learning investing and I invest in a horrible something, I don't know, a horrible property, a horrible stock. I don't know what I'll be investing in, but let's just say I invest in something horrible and I lose, and like I don't do well in that investment. Because I've mastered income, debt, and savings prior to investing, that won't hit as hard and as painful as someone, in my opinion, now don't get me wrong, I'm just, this is just my opinion, who's doing it all at the same time. So all that to say, before you guys hear or see me talking about investing, you will hear and see me boohoo bucketing tears about learning how to save. Because I need to figure that out. And I don't want anyone to be confused that like I'm a saver, because I'm not. It's not. I'll figure it out, but I'm not in this particular moment. I am a, yeah. So there's that. K. Gill, I think, Ash K. Gill. Top 3 advice with recent college graduate with no debt and on the job hunt. Ooh, my pieces of advice. No debt, recent graduate on the job hunt. Figure out what you're naturally gifted at. I like in my 21 questions journal, I talk about what are your top 3 talents, skills, or gifts. Figure out what those 3 things are and find work that is in alignment with that. And it doesn't matter what type of work it is. You will always earn more money. You will always feel more fulfilled. You will always have a better likelihood of moving into another workplace or moving into a career that is fulfilling and profitable for you if you are in a career space where your skill set matches. Now listen, I did not say something that matches your education, because sometimes we can have an education in something, but our skills and our talents and our gifts are in another area. So for example, with me, my undergraduate degree is in law. I have a paralegal studies, I have a bachelor's in paralegal studies, and I worked in law firms. But I don't have, my natural skills are not for law firms. Why? Because in law firms, it's all about attention to detail. It's all about paperwork. It's just a skill set that I don't have. I was fascinated with law because I can research, and I was fascinated with law because I thought that it involved a lot of talking and a lot of advocating. When you get into law, you find out that it involves a lot of paperwork and it involves a lot of attention to detail. I do not have those skills. So when I tried to take my degree and translate it into a job, it was a terrible match. I mean, panic attacks, assignments were late, like it just was a horrible match. But when I took my skills, being able to speak, being able to teach, being able to research, I took my strengths. I've taken the strength finder, so I'm a maximizer, I'm input, I'm a learner. When I took my strengths and my skills and I applied that, I ended up after undergrad, instead of working in a law firm, I worked for a nonprofit organization called the Somali Bantu Association, which was a nonprofit organization designed to help orientate Somali Bantu refugees into American culture and traditions by giving them the resources to be able to establish themselves in my hometown of Omaha, Nebraska. Now, the reason why that translated into my skills is because I was able to do research about the Somali Bantu culture to figure out how I needed to interact with them. I was able to use my gift of gab and my love for people to actually interact with a culture that had nearly opposing views to a lot of the American standards, right? We had Somali Bantu refugees, we had interpreters, we had American staff. Like, I was able to use the skill of maximizing any circumstance, or the strength of maximizing any circumstance or situation to really harmonize the workplace. So I went into working for the Somali Bantu Association thinking about my natural gifts and talents, and that ended up being an incredible job. There I learned that I'm great at human resources, which then turned into me getting my graduate degree in human resources, which then turned into me opening up a boutique HR consulting firm, designing training and development programs, which then finally turned into me realizing that what I really want to do is speak, and ultimately coming back around to being now a professional speaker, an influencer, coach, etc. So that's my first piece of advice. Figure out what your talents are, figure out what your skills are, figure out what your gifts are, and find work that involves that. using your education, translate your education into useful skills. So if you have your education, for example, I have my background in law, so I wouldn't go to try to be a paralegal at a nonprofit. I would go and try to be someone who, so if you have a general legal background, there are skills that come with that. You're a critical thinker, you're logical, you are a good researcher. So those 3 skills that my education gave me, I translated into a great job. First piece of advice. Second piece of advice is, since you don't have any debt, figure out what kind of life you want to have. Like literally, like what kind of lifestyle. So like I live very small intentionally, and I've learned recently that I enjoy it. Like I thought that this was just a choice that I made in order for me, a means to pay off my debt. No, it's now at this point, you can clearly see this is an active choice that I'm making because I actually prefer to live this way. So figure out what is your real lifestyle. Like what do you really want? Like, in terms of like how you live. Do you want a lot of space? Do you want a little space? Do you want a car? Like figure out those little nuances of your real lifestyle. And then when you're looking at work and you're looking at a career, thinking about the salary of that career as something that can fund your lifestyle, right? Because sometimes people will be like, oh, well, work somewhere that gives you pleasure. But like, so I have a friend, she can work anywhere in the world, right? And she chooses to work in the nonprofit sector, and she doesn't make very much money in the nonprofit sector. Meanwhile, her lifestyle is a lifestyle that like, she should be making 6 figures so she can maintain it. And so she has a lot of unfulfillment and a lot of complaint about her work and her life balance because she did not choose a industry that supported her lifestyle. She chose an industry that matched a value system, but because it doesn't support her lifestyle, she kind of doesn't get to live out her values the way that she wants. And I just believe that you can have it all. Like you can have your values, you can have your lifestyle, you can have it all. There are organizations, there are places where you can work where you can have that nonprofit, B Corp, socially conscious feel, but still make a whole bunch of money if you have a lifestyle that requires that. Now, some people can do nonprofit work and they love it and their lifestyle doesn't require them making a whole bunch of money, so it fits. So I would say the second thing would be figure out what your real lifestyle is and then choose work that is in alignment with that. And then the third piece of advice, and this is just coming from my HR background, like whatever work you end up getting into, allow it to stretch you. Like apply for the jobs that are a little bit above where you are, because originally the way that work was designed is that you would get hired and then you would work there for like a decade or more. But the psychology that most people use when they get a job is they apply for the job that they're currently qualified for, and then they get in the work and then they're bored. Like apply for a job that's going to stretch you a little bit so that you have some motivation and intrigue and excitement to stay there over the years, build up a skill set, build up a career, build up some know-how, build up some relationships and stuff like that. Like apply just a little bit above so that you can learn. And then when you get on the job, understand that you shouldn't be able to do everything perfectly because you're going to be here for a while, right? Like allow yourself to choose work where you can grow and develop. That would be my advice there. Great question. Obviously, you guys can tell I like talking about work. Like as someone being in human resources, like it's the human side of business. And I don't think people understand how fulfilling work gets to be because they don't have this gap of like, well, I don't have any debt, I'm on the job hunt, and I'm a recent grad. Like focus on your natural talents, skills, and gifts, translate your education into transferable skills, and then match the job choice to your lifestyle that you want to maintain. It'll be a game changer for you. Z said, yes, parenting, because I just had a Chicago baby in November 2020 and the lack of advice right now is crazy. Okay, yes. So you got a baby, new mommy. Robin Financial, you can update the screen driver to see if it fixes the problem. Yeah, I've troubleshooted this for quite some time. It's just time to go. It's time. But thank you. Kay says, so I make less than 30K a year and I have around 40K in debt, student loans. I'm really thinking about going back to school to get my master's. What do you think? So education does not translate into more money first of all. So a lot of people will be like, oh, I will go get this degree so I can make more money. And typically when you are getting a master's degree, master's degrees are not degrees that you can get with scholarship funds or a lot of grant funds. So usually master's degrees are funded out of pocket. So unless you know exactly how that master's degree is going to translate into dollars and cents, AKA you work at a company that says if you get a master's, we are going to increase your salary by this amount, I would not use getting a master's degree as a means to increasing my income. I'm hoping that that makes sense, because unless there's some built into your contract, education doesn't translate into more money, especially in the current times. So that's how I feel about that. Overall, however, I'm a person who loves education. I love learning, and I always think that it's a smart thing to get more education. I just want you to be mindful that just because you have more education doesn't mean it's going to translate into more money. You can have a master's degree and still make under 30K. And a lot of people go into a master's degree program thinking that it's going to translate, and it doesn't. So I would try to see how I could translate my bachelor's degree into about 50K before I went back. If it's about a financial decision, I would figure out how to translate my bachelor's degree into 50K before I tried to get more education, hoping that that translated into an additional amount. And then I would put myself on an income repayment plan with my student loans. I don't know if you are privately funded or federally funded, but what's amazing is if you're federally funded right now, you're not getting any interest. So I would totally take advantage of that and try to, pay off a big chunk of even if you didn't try to pay off a big chunk of your student loans, maybe if you have any other debts in other areas of your life that have a big interest rate, budgeting my money every single month to get rid of as much of those debts, so that way when you do start paying your student loans, it's easy to knock that out. But the biggest thing is I would figure out how to translate my bachelor's degree into a salary that's 50K or more. I would do all of that mindset work to figure that out. Buttercup Bunny, so are you thinking of getting a new laptop? Not at this time. I mean, unless I may search on Craigslist to see if I can find an older laptop that has a camera that's built in to the laptop, because the ones in the latest model, I think I got a 2021, it's built into the screen. And when I tell you, like, you guys are seeing me really clear right now, I was so distorted. And I was so distorted that I was in a meeting, like a half an hour, 45-minute meeting, and I kept apologizing for how I looked. And I don't like doing that when I'm in meetings. Like, no. So I will not be getting a 2021 MacBook Pro. I'll wait to let them update that feature. But ideally, when my aunt sends the iMac that she's sending me, I should just be able to use that. Annette, hello. Robin Financial, yes, I'm gonna do a virtual party and I'm gonna do an in-person party for my debt-free scream. Annette said, I love your outfit. Thank you very much. Robin Financial said, we call that the love glow. Kay said, I love how you honor your anxieties and fears. Yeah, listen. This is my life, my real life. It's not a dress rehearsal. We hear that thrown around, and I am responsible for taking care of myself. And you better believe I am going to take the best care of myself in all the land. The sickness that I felt in 2017, I do not ever want to physically, mentally, spiritually, or emotionally be in that place again. And there is no one to blame for me being in that place. I was 1,000% responsible, making decisions every step of the way. And I know better now, so you better believe I'm going to do better now. And I understand now that there is nothing more important than my mental and emotional health. Nothing. Because if I don't have that, any experience that I could have, I wouldn't be there. Like, could you imagine if I had all this money, I'm debt free, and I'm on a beach somewhere, but I'm depressed or I'm triggered? Like what good is it if I don't have the mental and emotional state to be present to whatever experiences that my finances could bring me? If I don't have the mental emotional state to be present to whatever love or kiddos could bring, it's the most important thing to me. So Z, did your son save for did you save for your son's college fund? Yes, I saved for his college fund, but he ended up getting a full ride scholarship, so we didn't need to use that, and so that is being translated. I mean, we needed to use a little bit of it. Let me not say we didn't need to use any of it. So that's being translated into some additional expenses. Like, he just gets a little bit more flexibility in terms of college funds. So that worked out really, really well. Really, really well. Love the paint color on the walls. What's the name and the color and the brand? The name is called Rock Bottom, which I just think is so poetic, right? So poetic. And I think the brand is Bear, but when I do like the tour and all that other stuff, I'll make sure that I get everything in there correctly for you guys. Let me grab my water. Let's see. Is your student debt the only debt you left to pay off? Yes. So I'm very excited about that. And after that, I will be a girl who lives her life by cash. And I can honestly say that's not like a dream or a hope. That is just a fact. That's just how I will be living my life. Because if you think about it, the amount of income I make is the equivalent of what somebody's credit card limit would be, right? So there's literally no need for me to have a credit card if my income is someone's credit limit. Like, what's the point of a credit card, right? And then in terms of home ownership or property, you know, if I can make $100,000 in 6 months, what's the point in taking out a loan if I can, you know? So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Let's see. I do love the paint color, but you painted your rental. That made me so nervous to hear, especially since the color is black. So I had it professionally painted, and when I move out, I will have it professionally painted I will have it professionally primed for them to paint. I did ask permission, so all of that stuff is, you know, good to go. I think that people are very afraid, and I'm going to talk a lot more about what I've been learning about homemaking. I think that people, don't get me wrong, some rentals you're not allowed to pay. So obviously talk to your managers. But what I learned is that a part of I learned that I had not moved into my apartment. Like, I just moved into this apartment, right? I've been living here. I've been staying here for a long time, but I just moved into this apartment. And not that painting is the only way to actually move into your apartment, but a lot of us are not in our lives, like we haven't moved into where we are, and we fear things like paint. But if you think about it, when you moved into your apartment, there was a fresh coat of paint on the wall. So regardless if I painted it this slate color or not, they were going to have to paint for the next person to move in. So you're moving into a painted space, so we shouldn't fear the idea of painting, given that we're living in paint. It's just a paint color that's not our choice. Now, obviously, because this is a darker color, I do have to prime and do some other things to get it back to builder standard. But if ever there was a place to play with paint in a rental, it would be in a studio that's cozier. So the cost of me taking everything back to what it was originally is going to be a lot less. And the benefit of it, I mean, the impact of it is, I mean, it's immeasurable. Like, I mean, look at this. It's like a whole nother apartment. But, and again, another big lesson is just live where you live, move in. Don't wait. Like, there are people who rent their whole lives and have never painted a wall. There are people who've lived in their apartments for 10 years and have never painted a wall. Like, what was going to happen in those 10 years? You lived there. It's not like your manager was going to come in and be like, leave, you painted our walls in these 10 years that you were here. It's like, yeah, even if he came in after 10 years, that's wear and tear. That's your responsibility. Like, right? Like, so I'm going to flesh it out better, but like, that's sort of like my psychology around painting and the fear of painting as it relates to being a renter, the fear of moving in and changing some things. Cause I got shelves built in my closet to make my closet more functional. I moved my closet rack. I changed out the, what's it called? The shower thing. What is this? The shower faucet. I changed out the shower faucet. The light fixtures, those are getting changed out. It's like I live here. And as long as I don't destroy their original stuff, like I'm not saying demo anything, but I live here. Like, so I'm gonna live here. Instead of living in the color that they selected, I'm gonna live in the color that I prefer. So, but we'll talk more about that when we start talking about other stuff. So the color is in the black family. It's called rock bottom. I would say that it's like more of a slate color, but it is, I mean, it's black. Sherry Turner, can you offer any advice for a 40-year-old woman starting over about to start a faith-based product that later a service biz coaching? Okay. My advice for anybody who is starting over is to I mean, first of all, like, start, but what is the real piece of advice there? Starting over. I think that the biggest piece of advice with starting over is just to stick with it and to remember, okay, so it's to remember that you're a beginner, right? So this is my second time doing the Dave Ramsey plan. And I think I had mentioned that a couple of times in the beginning, and then I never talked about it again. So a lot of people, I mean, until now. So a lot of people who are watching this journey, they see this as my first time. So I know that I'm starting over, and you know that you're starting over, but you don't want to get stuck in the story of starting over. Just let yourself start over and then run this one. And one of the things that I did was make it a point not to compare the success or the failures of this journey to that one. It's like I'm starting over. So it doesn't matter what happened before. None of that matters. I've started over. So like even with my business, like once I closed those businesses and paid off all the debt, I'm like, okay, I'm starting a new business. So outside of the wisdom that I've gained from those failures, none of what happened there matters to this. I'm starting over. So just making the psychological switch that this is a fresh, brand new thing, and to not bring that old story into this and allow it to sort of erode the possible success that you could have in that. That is some mindset, psychological work that's going to be really, really important to do in order for you to have success at starting over. You mentioned your age, and so I would also say, especially because of your age, because there's also mental stuff that goes on based off of our age for where we should be, where we shouldn't be. So just making the psychological shift of not pulling in that story, and then giving yourself grace to be a beginner at whatever it is that you're doing. So you mentioned that you are going to start with a faith-based product and then later transition into business coaching services. So a faith-based product sounds like something physical. Physical products in and of themselves are just a challenge and a half to do business with a physical product. So giving yourself the grace to be a beginner at a physical product, even if you already had a physical product before, right? When I restarted my speaking business, when I restarted on YouTube, all of that, I restarted fresh. Took the wisdom from those experiences, but I started everything fresh. And that was the thing that enabled me to be successful, is that I really was like, this is a fresh start. And I really was like, oh, I'm a beginner. Like, and you will see that in my Dave Ramsey videos. I'm like, I am a student, and I let myself be a student. And in that, I'm able to have so much more success, and I'm able to maintain the fresh start. So great question. It kind of looks black. Yeah, it is. It's black. I mean, it's a slate black color, but there's levels to black is what I'm saying. Like the black that I had originally chose. No, ma'am. So yes. Let's see. Okay, I'm not sure. I just know she said she painted her place, but okay. I never even, okay. Whom do you give your tithes to? A particular church. My biggest challenge I have to work on. I follow like the biblical standard of tithing, which in the Bible it just says like the tithes go into the storehouse. So however you interpret what the storehouse is, a lot of people interpret the storehouse to be the church where they are fed from. So if that's your interpretation, then I would highly encourage you to give there. And so for me, I just, as close as I can get to the biblical standard of where's my storehouse, where is the place that I'm going to for spiritual understanding and like all of that good stuff, and I tithe to that place. And for me, tithes, and this is something that you guys will see later, likely when I'm saving, is that tithes is very different to me than offerings and alms and giving and stuff like that. So you guys will maybe I'll talk a little bit more in depth about all of that when I'm doing that. The reason I don't like to get into the tithe conversation here is because, one, I'm not a pastor, and I think that your spiritual journey, your relationship with God needs to be your relationship with God. And if my relationship with God and the way that I choose to display that inspires you to want to add something to your relationship with God, that's amazing. But I don't necessarily feel comfortable overtly talking about what I do and why and where, because it's so personal and intimate to me and my relationship with God. So we'll see if when I talk about it later, if I'll get into more detail, but yeah. Not today said, I hope they pass this 50K student loan forgiveness plan. You have been going at this for a while now. Yes, I have. Vicky Nicole, I got my undergraduate degree in spa management and could not find a job paying more than minimum wage. I decided to go back to school and get a master's degree in accounting. Okay. So 2 things. I understand the challenge of not being able to find a place that pays more. There are other alternatives than finding places that pay more. There is the alternative of starting your own practice, and I understand that entrepreneurship is not for everyone, but I highly encourage you to consider that path. I know a lot of people with accounting degrees, master's and bachelor's degrees, and I encourage you to start looking now for the job you think you will have once you complete your master's degree, so you can really wrap your mind around what you will be earning. Because an accountant is going to be doing a very different job than, or maybe not someone who's in spa management. Maybe there's some overlap. But making sure that the value of what you will be earning with that degree is enough to compensate for the shift in the type of work you will be doing and the type of fulfillment that you will have. And so much of your statement, it's a mindset thing. Like I'm sure I understand the idea of not being able to find, but what did looking look like? Did looking look like networking? Did looking look like cold calling? Like, what did looking look like? Did looking look like being willing to do an internship for 6 months so you can get in at a company? And then, like, what did looking look like? So if you think about my journey, I don't know how long you've been following me, but when I decided to restore my financial dignity, I didn't do it by going to go find a job in corporate America or going to go find a really, really good job. I chose to work part-time at a cafe. Yes, for some mental health reasons, but also I chose to work there because I knew it wouldn't tax me mentally. And I also knew I wouldn't make enough money to get comfortable, which then fueled me investing in my business strategically so that my business would eventually be the thing that sustained me. So when I hear you say you couldn't find, it's like, well, what were you looking for and why? Were you looking for a job to pay you a certain amount for a particular reason? Were you looking for something within a particular company? Like, what were you looking for and how were you looking shapes what you find. Okay, S said, thanks for the advice. You're very welcome. Child of knowledge. My grocery budget these days is $300. Kay said, how do I translate my bachelor's degree into 50K? So yes, that is mindset, right? Like bachelor's, there are so many people who have a bachelor's degree who make 50K. And this is the reason. So when I do open my coaching practice, there's going to be a component about money because most of the money that we earn isn't because of our education or lack thereof. It's because of our mindset about what we're capable of earning. So when I earned my bachelor's degree, I said that, and this is a while back, I got my bachelor's degree in 2007, 2006. So I said to myself, I'm not working somewhere where I'm making less. I think at the time it was 40,000. I was like, I will come out making 40,000. I just, because I had already decided that this is the minimum that degrees pay. I didn't care. And I was like, I will find the job that minimum pays that. That's my psychology, is to say, this is what I want, this is what I'm looking for, and anything that's not that, I'm going to keep looking. So I don't know what you have your degree in, but that could be a mental block. You might be saying, oh, well, I have my degree in sociology, and nobody who has a degree in sociology can get paid more than 50,000. Well, that's a belief, that's a thought, that's a mindset, and you got to do the work on that thought, that belief, that mindset to overcome that, so that way you can make more than 50K. It's just like how when I tell people I make 10K working part-time, or last month I made 20K working part-time in my own company, they're like, no, you're not even a real entrepreneur if you're not hustling. And I'm like, the way these checks are set up, I feel like a real entrepreneur, right? Like, somebody else's psychology is you have to be working 14-hour days in order to be an entrepreneur, or you have to be hustling in order to make as much money as I make. I simply decided I will work part-time and I will make a whole bunch of money. And then from that decision, I went out and I looked for the things that said, oh yes, you can do that. That said, oh yes, that makes sense. That, like, I did the mental work, right, of raising my prices, finding products, pitching myself, putting things out. I did all of that mindset work to be able to create what I have now. And so for you, your mindset tells you that a bachelor's degree can't earn 50K. That is your work. It's not going to go get a master's, so hopefully the master's will justify the 50K. No, it's doing the work to believe that bachelor's degrees are out here paying people 50K. So what do I need to do in order to be one of those people that's earning 50K with my bachelor's degree? Yes. Child of knowledge, has your son graduated high school? Yes. Yes, he graduated last year, so this is his second semester in college. Patricia said, any tips on staying positive and motivated during this time? Yes. Stop watching the news. First thing, listen, what you consume will shape what you think about, right? Stop watching the news. You know what's here. You know what's going on. You don't need to be updated on that every single day, right? So that's the number one thing. You want to stay motivated. You want to stay positive. Stop watching information. Stop taking in information that is a Debbie Downer, period. That's thing number one. Number two is prioritize your mental and emotional health. And what I mean by that is, just because you're not watching the news doesn't mean I want you to put your head in the sand and act like nothing is going on. I want you to respect the fact that stuff is going on, and you might be under more stress than normal, and you might be having issues that you wouldn't normally have. And as a result of that, you're going to prioritize your mental and emotional health by possibly finding a therapist, possibly finding a coach, possibly maybe, doing a great girlfriends chat once a week where you guys can just dump everything that is you're stressing and struggling about. You're going to start going to the gym so that you can exercise your body to overcome some of the mental and physical stress. Like, you're going to prioritize your mental and emotional and physical health because we are in such a stressful state and time. That would be my second piece of advice. And then my third piece of advice, I think that those are the two things. Those are two really big things. I think stop watching the news, and then prioritize your mental and emotional health via getting some sort of support or outlet for it. I guess third piece of advice would be consume positive content, consume uplifting things. Like, what you consume matters. It just does. And I consume really, really amazing content. Let's see. Perfume Buzz One said, "Are you married now? Are you engaged?" No, I'm not married now. I'm not engaged. Apple Juicy Juice said, "I finally put up curtains and family pictures on my apartment walls." Bravo. That is a task and a half worthy of celebration. Like, that is amazing. I know it has to feel so homey and cozy in there now. Naja said, I'm wondering why you chose a studio as opposed to a 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom. I chose a studio because my primary intent and focus is to become 100% debt free. I'm an entrepreneur, so that's my primary focus. Second focus was to have a self-sustaining, successful business. And so the pressure of being an entrepreneur and the intent of becoming 100% debt free helped me to see that I really wanted to keep my expenses incredibly low. And the best way for me to keep my expenses low was in a studio. Also, my mental and emotional health is super important to me. So I had to live in a neighborhood that was visually like awesome. Like I could have lived in a different neighborhood that I could have gotten more space inside. But my neighborhood would have been visually taxing for me, and that doesn't work for me because what I see matters and what I hear. Like I'm just sensitive that way. So I chose to live in a neighborhood that costs more for less space so that I could have that visual stimulation of what's possible. So 10 steps away from my home, there are mansions, and I needed that, right? Like I'm someone who sees myself as a successful entrepreneur, someone who's debt free. Like I needed that when I walked outside of my apartment, like I was surrounded by abundance. I'm surrounded by opulence. I'm surrounded by somebody's house is like the size of my whole apartment complex. But when I go outside of my house and I see that every morning when I walk, I cannot mentally stay in a place of, well, that's impossible. Well, it's not impossible because that's my neighbor and I see this human every day, right? Like, so I know it's someone out there is doing it. So I intentionally chose to live in a neighborhood that costs a little bit more, but would do something for me on the motivation, psychological front. And then also I just wanted to make sure that my monthly expenses were under $1,500 a month, because I knew that no matter what happened, if I ever got sick again, if I lost my job, something happened with the company, that it would be easy for me to make $1,500 in a month and I would never lose my home or anything like that. So that's why I'm choosing to still stay here now, because I love my neighborhood and I do love my apartment. Let's see. Greta said I have a prepaid American Express card. I've thought about the prepaid cards, but it's just easier to manage my finances via my debit card. I feel like I take my money more seriously and it just simplifies things. Let's see. I'm just looking for questions. Sherry said, I need you as a biz coach. I'm over here taking notes. Yes, I'm very excited for my life coaching practice to get started. There will be money coaching in there, business coaching, relationship coaching. So life coaching is the overall title of it, but it'll be life coaching that encompasses all of that, and even career coaching, because I have some stuff about career coaching given my experience in HR. So I'm very excited about that. I'm fingers crossed it's coming out sooner rather than later. But the launch of my physical product, I wonder, should I show you guys a sneak peek? Do you guys want to see a sneak peek for being on here? Is it within arm's reach? If it's within arm's reach, I'll give you guys a sneak peek. I don't think I have it here. Let me see. Is it here? No, it's okay. Never mind. It's not up here. I would have shown you guys a sneak peek. Okay. So, Blooming Brave. My top strength finders are connectedness and belief, but I always have a hard time translating that into work. I've been working in unfulfilled jobs for the longest and I'm kind of tired. Okay. So connectedness means that you need to be in a job where you are making connections for your superiors, right? So you need to be in a job where there are disparate pieces of information, there are disparate parts, and your job is to bring them together. A lot of jobs that are like that are jobs that are like in the market, and I don't know what your background is in, but this is just off the top of my head. Those are jobs that are like in the HR field, right? Like people in HR do a grand job making connections, whether it is connecting the employee to the right job in terms of like being a recruiter, right? That's a person who makes connections, or it's someone who, like, I was in the training and development field, so I had to make the connection between the deficiencies in you not doing your job well and what type of training you need so we could close that gap. So human resources and marketing are really great industries, or really great business divisions inside of industries. Now, you can work in any industry. You can work in the food industry. You can work in tech industry. You can work in energy. You can work in retail, right? But in that industry, finding the business division, i.e. marketing, human resources within that industry may serve you. So like a lot of times when people think about working in retail, they think about being the person who works at Saks and you get greeted, like, hey, are you going to buy something? Well, that's a role in the retail business, but the retail business has a whole company that is making it possible for you to shop at Saks. So if you like retail, right, maybe you work in human resources in retail, and then you are making the connection between the people who are the shoppers and the greeters and the behind the scenes people. Or you can work in, say you like, you want to work in the food industry. You can work in the food industry via the restaurant industry. You can work in the food industry via like actual packaged food. You can work in the food industry via the grocery sector. And then within those sectors, the business divisions within those sectors via marketing and human resources. So off the top of my head, that's when I think about somebody who's a connector, I would imagine them being in a human resources or a marketing role, because you need to be able to take disparate things and bring them together. Then your second strength is belief. And belief that is an amazing place. A person with a high belief, you would be amazing to work with startups. Now, obviously there's risk there, but like startups need people with a lot of belief. Imagine if you were on the ground floor when Google was coming up. Like Google didn't just make itself. No, Google was surrounded by a whole bunch of connectors and people with belief, because you got to believe in nothing for a while before it becomes something. So if I was somebody with high belief, I would look into the startup industry and trying to find what are some of the companies that are coming up, what are some of the companies that are growing, what are some of the industries that are booming, right? So like in the energy industry, we are moving into a space of, we're moving away from gas into more of electric. And so I would go into the energy space and see what companies are popping up around that, because these are companies that are going to need a lot of belief. Education, that's the place where there's a ton of belief, and you can look at education from the perspective of in a classroom, right, being a teacher, but also the administrative side of education. Like we need somebody who believes in education, who has high belief in human potential to be the ones creating the curriculum for education, right? So if I had high belief, I would work in like nonprofit, startup, and education would be where I would take the strength of belief. That's how I would translate it. Hopefully that helps. Would you mind sharing links to that amazing content? TP, can you tell me what that amazing content is that you're talking about? I don't know what that means. I must have said something earlier, but I don't remember. Reasons to give. I truly enjoy listening to your perspective on budgets, life, even the way you co-parent. Thank you. Thank you. I enjoy sharing. Thank you. W.D. Brown, I love your thought process. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see. Yeah, Z said, I've never heard anyone put it that way. Surround themselves around success works as a visual motivation. Oh yeah, like think about your eye gate. There's so much. Okay, so here's the thing, guys. You are constantly taking in stuff. You're taking in stuff from your eye gate, your ear gate, your touches, your taste, your smell. And you want all of those things that you're taking in to be at the highest quality possible. And this can be summarized when people say environment matters. That's what they mean when they say environment matters. I just break it down to the details, right? Like your environment is so specific that like if you grew up like where everything is impoverished, there is a limitation to what you can visualize, right? Because sight comes out of your eyes, vision comes out of your heart. But if all you've ever seen is impoverished areas, and like Carrie Washington, she had did an interview and she talked about how she had grew up in a neighborhood where in the apartment, like you go up in the apartment and it's like, you know, 4 apartments on this side, 4 apartments on this side. But then she ended up going to this school that was like a private school somewhere, and she went to go visit one of her friends at their house, and when they got off the elevator opened up to their home because the whole floor belonged to them. And she said the first time she experienced that, like, she was upset because she was so because she couldn't believe that, like, because her psychology around apartments is that there's 4 on one side, 4 on another side. But here it is, she's visiting someone and the elevator doesn't take them to a hallway that then takes them to apartments. The elevator takes them to their front door. And she talked about the pain of being disillusioned by what apartments were supposed to be, just by being exposed to that visually, and how difficult it was for her to see that and then go back to her life and not kind of be upset with her parents and be upset with herself and kind of have shame and to have to work with that. But that's how powerful our eye gate is. It's like some stuff you don't want or you don't think is possible, literally because you have not taken it in visually or audibly or mental, like you haven't taken in the possibility. But when I walk out of my apartment and my apartment building is the same size as somebody's house, oh, you better believe by the time I'm coming live, I'm like, oh yeah, anything is possible. This man's house is as big as my apartment. Like, it's like that visual stimulation just reminds me that, like, my lack of belief in it is simply my evidence of my lack of exposure or experience with it. So yeah, I take very good care to make sure what I see and what I hear and what I smell, what I taste. And you guys see that in my food. Like, if you guys remember when my grocery budget was $50 and I would go to Whole Foods and people would be like, you can't do that. It's like, I'm going to get my beans from Whole Foods. There's intent to that. I wanted organic, but also visually, emotionally, the way I was stimulated when I went into Whole Foods to get my groceries versus the way that I'm stimulated if you go into other places to get your groceries. I need that to translate into my life and into my experiences. So yeah, 100. If people changed what their eye gate took in, it would dramatically shift their life, dramatically improve their life. So yeah. Let's see. How do you get past the shame and guilt of making poor financial decisions? I feel like this may get in the way of seeking help, or maybe I'm wrong. First of all, you have to be willing to be wrong, right? Like, I am in a beautiful place with respect to, like, relationships with friends, romantic and professional relationships. But the only way for me to get to this space where I'm at in relationships was for me to be willing to be wrong about the previous relationships that I was in. And it is very hard to be wrong about the previous relationships that I was in. Same thing with money. The only way for me to get to where I'm at with money, I had to be willing to be wrong about what I was taught about money, right? Like, in the shame that was involved with that. Like, if you go back to some of these videos, you can see when I was pissed, when I'm like, I don't know why no one taught me this. Like, and you can see me going through all of the emotions because I didn't want to let myself be wrong, and I didn't want the people who taught me in my life to be wrong. And then one day I was just like, Stacey, what if they're wrong? What if that was wrong? And once I made peace with letting it be wrong, then I was like at the beginning of being able to get to the place of allowing it to be right. It's okay for us to be wrong. I know as adults, we're taught we can't change our mind. We taught that we can't be wrong. We taught that we must know. It's like, if nobody ever taught you, like, if nobody sat you down and did a budget with you, the only reason why you are wrong is because no one ever taught you. You're not wrong because you are wrong. You're wrong because literally no one taught you. So you can make it to 67 years old and no one ever taught you about dollars and cents. No one ever taught you that. How are you expected to know? There's no reason for you to just magically know that. Like, think about how complicated money is. Money is so complicated that there is a whole profession dedicated to people managing other people's money. They're called accountants. That is how complicated money is. Yet we think as individual lay people who have not been educated in finances that we're just supposed to magically know how to do money. No, there's a whole profession dedicated to educating people over a 4-year period to understand dollars and cents. You better believe that if I'm going to be wrong about something, it's going to be something that people are professionally educated to be right about. Like, that is how I release myself from the shame. It's like, Stacey, do you have a bachelor's in this? No. Did somebody sit down and teach you this? No. Okay. You don't be ashamed about being in debt. No one taught you this. You don't be ashamed about not earning more. No one taught you how to earn more. And now that you are willing to be wrong about that, you are willing to see that you stumbling isn't a sign of your weakness. You stumbling is simply no one ever taught you. Once you're willing to do that, you can surrender to the idea that you're learning, and in you learning, it can help you to be able to move forward. But that's what I do. I tell myself the truth. The truth is, there is a profession dedicated to doing what I'm trying to do by myself, and nobody taught me this. So I'm doing pretty amazing right now. So hopefully that will deliver you from some of your shame about it and allow you to be able to start over. Like, if nobody ever taught you, like, you're a student. You're a student. And then you're making your poor financial decisions. Those decisions were made. I would write them all down, journal all of my feelings about them, and then say out loud, Stacey, I forgive you for the choices that you made when you didn't know. Now we're going to make different choices. And what I had to do is in my first video, like, I talk about, like, for me, I heal very well through talking out loud. So I just put all my shame out there. I'm like, look, I fell back into debt. I did a TED Talk. I feel like a fraud. Like, I put it all out there because I needed to get it out of me. So that's why I'm often encouraging journaling. If you're not somebody who wants to verbally say it out loud, get it all out, look at it, and then forgive yourself. Let that be the work for this month, is forgiving yourself for your poor financial decisions, and then begin to make new decisions moving forward. Let's see. Oh, okay. I said I consume amazing content, so maybe I can do some links and stuff like that. Okay. Maybe I'll do a video dedicated to that so that way we can organize it all together. Nicole Jones, that's why people recommend vision boards. Yes. That is why people recommend vision boards. Vision boards are an incredible tool for focus. So where I live, I don't need a vision board because I literally, right, I step out into a vision board, whether it's from the cars, the homes, the courtesies that, because when you live in an affluent neighborhood, people are kinder, right? So I see a lot. I'm stimulated visually very well in my environment. So I literally don't need a vision board. And I remember when I first moved into this apartment, I kept thinking, I was like, why? Because I love vision boards. I've been doing vision boards for at least a decade. And I was like, I can't find the motivation to do this vision board. I was like, why don't I need this tool anymore? And I realized it's because the tool of a vision board is to give you focus, right? I didn't need that because I literally moved into an environment that I didn't need to be distracted from. And so when I go outside, when I'm in my home, all of it is a vision board, if you will, for me at this level. Now, I may, based off some of the things that I experienced last year, create a vision board because I'm dreaming a little different and a little bigger than even what I have now. And so I may do a vision board for that. I just haven't decided yet. But yes, it's 100% why. And I highly recommend vision boards. I think I have a couple vision board videos up that you can see. Yes, Z said, I feel like budgeting for me has led to a motivation to improve my quality of life. Absolutely. Can you talk about if you struggled at all to not invest in yourself while budgeting? Oh yeah, you guys saw, like, I haven't had a shower curtain. I just got a shower curtain. I've been living in this apartment for nearly 3 years. I just got a shower curtain. Okay? The only thing I wouldn't compromise on was my mental and emotional health, right? But I slept on an air mattress for 6 months. I didn't have a shower curtain. I didn't have a rug in my bathroom. Like, it really was actually unhealthy. And I'll talk about that a lot too when I start to talk about the homemaking. When I look at it now, I can see how unhealthy I was because I didn't have a problem with that either. And there's a balance between depriving yourself of basic necessities so that you can get your money together, and then just not being healthy enough to be aware that that's what you're doing. But Yeah, it was very, very difficult for me to invest in myself. And unless I could justify it as a business expense, pretty much wasn't happening. So yeah. Yep. Oh, okay. You mean like lifestyle changes, such as you have a budget for food, but you learn it's better for organic, but that breaks your budget. How do you balance? So there's an illusion that organic will break your budget. It's not true. I think that like, so if you want to eat organic, that may, and you want to stay within budget, that may translate into you making more home cooked food, home cooked meals. So like a lot of times people will go organic, but they'll still eat junk food in the organic space. And junk food in the organic space is way more expensive than junk food in the non-organic space. So the most inexpensive way to go organic is to go bulk or raw. I don't know how would I say that, but like to go bulk or raw. So like you're buying the vegetables from the produce section versus buying prepackaged organic stuff. So you, again, it's a mindset shift. It's like organic isn't the thing that busts the budget. It's the types of food, the quality of the types of food that you are eating. Translating that into organic is very costly because the intent of organic is to be as close to the original form that the food is in. But like, say for example, you were like, okay, I'm gonna go organic. If you can psychologically also process, or you can psychologically also decide I won't eat processed foods, you will find that you have more than enough money to go organic. But if you're trying to do a one-to-one match from non-organic to organic, then it'll be challenging. So it's like there are other decisions that you have to make. If you say I'm going to spend $100 and I'm going to be organic, you then have to make the additional decisions inside of that. You have to constrain yourself. But the first decision has to be I'm committed to organic, and then the other decisions will flow from that. And that's something that you guys witnessed when my budget was $50 a month. It's like people are like, how are you eating at Whole Foods? Well, if you watch me, I make my popcorn from scratch, right? Like I could buy a bag of popcorn, but when I buy from the bulk section, it's like less than a penny per kernel, like, right? So it's like, and then I invest the extra 10 to 15 minutes to pop it on the stove. Those are all decisions that I made so that the food that I snacked on would be organic. I ate beans and rice a lot. Like I ate more plant-based initially, right? Like after you make the one decision, it's not just that decision, it's all the other decisions that follow. And most of the time, people break their budget because of decision fatigue. It's like, okay, I don't want to make any more of these decisions. So yeah, I'll do one more question and then I'll let you guys go. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't think I'm pronouncing your name right. So Corio Feliciano, thank you very much for, I forgot what that's called when you send money, but thank you, thank you, thank you. That is really, really beautiful. Oh, look, is that all the questions? Let me see. Yeah, that's actually all of the questions. Look at there. I was wrapping up and that's all of the questions. So look at that. Just worked out perfectly. So thank you guys. Videos are coming. Thank you so much for your patience. I will talk to you all very, very soon. Have a glorious rest of your Monday.